The recycled air aboard the Stellar Wayfarer smelled faintly of citrus and ozone, courtesy of Captain Eli Storm's obsessive sanitation routines. He took pride in his ship, a mid-tier exploration vessel that had seen everything from asteroid storms to fungal mold colonies the size of dogs, but nothing, he would later say, prepared him for introducing Nishi to a toilet. She stood in the hallway, 4 feet of lavender-skinned curiosity, her oversized eyes blinking slowly as he opened the door to the crew lavatory with the ceremonious pride of a father revealing a prized trophy. And this, Eli said, sweeping his arm grandly, is the most important piece of Terran engineering ever developed for deep space living. The girl tilted her head. Her delicate antennae twitched in the air like tuning forks searching for a signal as she stepped forward warily, nose scrunching at the sterile scent. The toilet, pristine, porcelain, unassuming, sat like a dormant beast in the corner. Nishi circled it slowly. She poked the seat with a single finger, recoiling when it wobbled slightly. What is it? She whispered. Eli smirked. A toilet. She blinked at he leaned closer. It's where humans dispose of waste. Nishi's face scrunched, a visible shudder running through her. In a bowl? It's not just a bowl, he said, patting the tank with the same reverence one might give a trusted weapon. It uses water and suction to transport the contents into the sanitation bay. Her wide eyes narrowed to horrified slits. It eats it? Eli blinked, then chuckled. I mean, kind of? You want to see it in action? No, he flushed. Anyway, the sound, violent, gurgling, like a beast waking, roared in the small compartment. Water swirled and vanished into the abyss. Nishi shrieked. She leapt back as if burned, slammed against the hallway wall, and pointed with both hands. It's alive. It opens its mouth and howls. And it's hungry. Eli was doubled over laughing. Nishi glared. That is not sanitation. That is sorcery. Nishi refused to go near the lavatory for the next hour. She stayed perched on the observation bench just outside the cockpit, arms wrapped tightly around her knees, eyes warily flicking toward the corridor that led to the beast room. Eli offered snacks. She refused. He offered a juice box. She hissed. Finally, he sat down beside her, holding his mug of recycled coffee, and said, You know, it's not going to come after you. Nishi stared ahead. It howled at me. That's the flush mechanism. It inhaled. Well, yes. But that's by design. It's very hygienic. She turned to face him, antennae twitching in a way he was starting to associate with suspicion. On my home moon, we have soft stone pits warmed by sunlight. You squat, and it returns the waste to the soil, which feeds the lumifert. He considered that. Okay. Composting. Efficient. Organic. Earth's got those too, in some places. Her nose wrinkled. But your toilet is loud. And white. And it spins. That's the centrifugal suction. For zero-grav situations, mostly. She narrowed her eyes. Your people built a spinning mouth to devour waste. For space travel. I mean, yeah. Among other things. She stood suddenly. Show me again. Eli blinked. The toilet? Yes. You want me to flush it again? Her fists clenched. Yes. Are you going to run away again? Nishi didn't answer. She marched stiffly down the hallway, antennae held high like a battle standard. Eli followed, a little amazed. Inside the lavatory, she stepped forward like a warrior approaching a sleeping dragon. She stood before the toilet, arms crossed. Do it. Eli hesitated. Okay, but maybe stand back a little. She didn't move. He pressed the button. The toilet roared. Nishi screamed. She slammed the door shut and ran again, her high-pitched shriek echoing through the corridor as she barreled back toward the safety of the cockpit. Eli sighed and called after her. Okay, maybe we'll start with hand soap next time. Later that evening, after the Stellar Wayfarer's ambient lighting shifted to twilight mode and the stars outside spun lazily in the viewport, Eli found Nishi curled up in the mess hall's reading nook, buried in a blanket and a very worn instructional manual on Terran water systems. She didn't look up as he entered, but her voice floated out from behind the book. Why does it need to make that noise? He smiled, easing into the bench across from her. It doesn't have to. But in zero gravity, systems need pressure. The flush isn't just water, it's suction, siphoning waste into a containment field. Nishi peeked out from behind the manual. Her face wrinkled with disbelief. You engineered a portal that eats feces. And you put it in every room. Every bathroom, he corrected. Not every room. Though I've been to stations where it felt that way. She stared at him, antennae slowly lowering in exhausted surrender. Why not just disintegrate it? My people use thermal nullifiers. Poof. Gone. Eli leaned forward. Because Terrans don't like vaporizing matter in enclosed spaces. Bad for air quality. And, well, not everyone trusts nullifiers to stop at waste. Nishi considered that reasonable. He sipped his coffee. You know, I've seen your kind navigate volcanic terrain, survive solar flares in biome suits made of woven algae. And yet you're terrified of plumbing. She muttered, your plumbing hisses. He laughed. So do cats. We still live with them. Nishi glared. Cats do not consume excretions. Eli held up his hands. Okay. Fair point. She lowered the manual completely and sat up straighter, her tone softening. My first time using a waste pit alone, I was 6 cycles. I fell in. Eli blinked. Oh. Everyone laughed, she continued. Even my nest mother. They said it meant I'd become a brave traveler. But I never forgot the smell. Well, Eli said gently, at least now you know why we use water. She nodded slowly. It's not sorcery. Just containment. Exactly. A pause, then she asked, do they come in different colors? Eli grinned. I can paint flames on it if that helps. She blinked once. Then, solemnly, yes. That would help a great deal. The next day, Eli awoke to the soft thud-thud of small footsteps pacing outside the lavatory. He peeked out of his bunk, rubbing sleep from his eyes, and spotted Nishi standing at the threshold once again, blanket draped over her shoulders like a ceremonial cape. She didn't notice him watching. She took a deep breath, stepped in, closed the door behind her. Eli sat up. Instantly alert, what followed was a series of strange sounds. A hesitant click. A quiet yelp. Then the soft whir of water activating, not the full flush, but something less aggressive. Silence followed, then, a squelch. A high-pitched scream, and the unmistakable sound of the emergency flush override activating. Eli jumped out of bed and raced toward the door. It slid open before he could reach it. Nishi stood there, soaked, humiliated, and furious. A towel was wrapped around her lower half like a defeated warrior's banner. Her antennae drooped pitifully. The beast rejected me. Eli blinked at the water pooling around her feet. What happened? I sat, she said, gritting her small teeth. I did everything right. I followed the diagrams. I even whispered to it. But then it gurgled and spat at me. He stifled a laugh. You triggered the bidet function. She stared at him. The what? He cleared his throat. A cleaning mechanism. For post-use hygiene. It sprays water. Nishi's eyes flared wide. Without warning? Eli nodded. Usually there's a control panel. There was no panel, she cried. Just the mouth. And then the squirt. She stomped past him down the hallway, dripping. Where are you going? To meditate. And possibly burn my blanket. Eli looked into the lavatory and sighed. A puddle, a trail of tiny wet footprints, and a bidet with more personality than it should have. Progress, he muttered. Painful, soggy progress. Determined not to let the porcelain beast claim another victory, Nishi returned later that cycle, this time with a toolkit and a heavy scowl. Eli found her crouched beside the base of the toilet, a holopad beside her displaying a 3D model of Terran sanitation systems. Wires dangled from the open maintenance panel. A small, very illegal-looking alien screwdriver sparked in her hand. He froze in the doorway. Okay. I admire the initiative. But please tell me you didn't disconnect the pressurized line. PSSHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHHThe air, bouncing off the ceiling and drenching them both in a second. Nishi screamed. Eli shouted. They scrambled to shut the valve. By the time the water hissed into silence, both were soaked again, hair plastered to their faces. Nishi blinked furiously, wiping droplets from her eyes. Eli leaned back against the stall door, dripping and gasping. I may have misread the schematic, Nishi muttered. Yeah, Eli said. Pipe labeled, caution, high pressure usually means don't twist it until it snaps. She sniffled, then sneezed, a small, high-pitched squeak. Eli sighed and handed her a towel. Here. She accepted it with wounded pride. I wanted to understand it, she said. To know its bones. If I could see how it worked, I wouldn't be afraid of it. He sat beside her, grabbing the holopad. All right. Let's do this together. Toilets 101. They spent the next hour deep inside Terran plumbing theory. He explained valves and traps, tank floats and flush levers. She listened intently, asking surprisingly sharp questions no human child would think to ask, like, why not use electromagnetic siphons? Or, is the swirl motion a cultural aesthetic? Eventually, Eli showed her the primary pipe assembly again. This, he said, pointing, is where the water flows in after the flush. Harmless. She leaned in, watching the mechanism with awe. It's like a heart. Kind of. Beats once per visit. She touched the ceramic exterior reverently. I still don't like it. But I respect it now. Eli chuckled. That's all anyone can ask. The storm of embarrassment had passed. Now, the ship was quiet. Nishi sat on a step just outside the lavatory, legs tucked beneath her, sipping a warm cup of fermented nebula root tea, a comfort drink from her world. Eli joined her with his ever-present coffee mug, the scent of burnt bean clashing subtly with hers. They sat without words for a while. Finally, Nishi broke the silence. My people fear loss more than pain. Losing dignity, position, memory. Eli nodded slowly. Terrans used to be like that, too. Still are, in some places. When I panicked, she said, eyes on the floor, I didn't fear being wet. I feared you would laugh. That you would think I was small. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. You're not small, Nishi. You just come from a different system. Our tech, our sounds, our messes, they aren't natural to you. Doesn't make you less. It makes you brave for trying. She looked at him, eyes glistening. You mean it? I do. Her antennae relaxed. We have a saying back home. The one who asks how the water flows is the one who will one day sail it. Eli smiled. Beautiful. And accurate. Nishi chuckled softly. My sisters would never believe I was afraid of a toilet. Better to be afraid and curious, he said, than arrogant and broken. Another pause. I used to think, she whispered, that traveling the stars would make me taller. Stronger. Like the legends. Eli glanced at her gently. You don't become a legend overnight. Sometimes, you start by learning to flush without fear. She laughed, a full, real sound, and it echoed down the corridor like sunlight breaking in orbit. They clinked mugs, and in that simple, quiet moment, surrounded by pipes, steam, and compassion, a bridge was built, between worlds, between hearts, between species. One flush at a time. For the next 2 days, the stellar wayfarer's corridor became a training ground, a place where fear met instruction, and the once dreaded lavatory became a classroom. Eli dubbed it Toilet Academy. He built a mock toilet interface out of plastic crates and projection buttons in the hallway. Nishi approached it cautiously at first, clad in a makeshift, trainee cloak fashioned from a towel. Her posture was tense, her fingers twitching nervously at her sides. All right, Eli said, pointing at the glowing projection. This one's the flush. Tap it, don't stab it. She reached out, touched. The mock toilet emitted a soft, pre-recorded whoosh sound. She flinched, but held her ground. Eli grinned. Progress. They worked through every function: lid up, lid down, seat raise, seat lock, manual override, bidet settings, with a stern lecture about water pressure. Each success earned her a new badge, little magnetic stickers with cartoon planets, stuck proudly to her cloak. By the second day, she strutted past the galley like a soldier returning from battle, her cloak rustling, her antennae raised like flags. Eli watched her activate the real toilet's flush with no hesitation. You did it, he said. You conquered the beast. She beamed. I am the toilet master now. He bowed dramatically. Your Excellency. Flush Queen, she corrected, placing a hand over her heart. They both burst out laughing. Eli paused, watching her from the corner of his eye as she practiced sitting, standing, adjusting the bidet panel. She no longer hesitated. No more running. No more fear, just resilience, just learning. He realized then that no alien invasion, no grand diplomatic breakthrough, could ever teach him as much about unity as this small, absurd, beautiful journey had. The moment came quietly. There was no fanfare. No audience. No urgent music swelling in the background, just a girl, a toilet, and the silence of a ship humming gently through deep space. Nishi entered the lavatory alone this time. No towel cloak. No tools. Just her hands at her sides, her chin lifted slightly. With the confidence of someone who had wrestled with embarrassment and come out stronger. Eli sat in the cockpit, pretending not to listen, but every creak of a pipe, every soft noise from the corridor pulled his attention. There was the sound of the door closing. A moment later, the faint clunk of the seat lowering. A pause, then the flush. A normal, clean, non-panic-inducing flush, and then, laughter, real, giddy, triumphant laughter. The door slid open and Nishi emerged, arms spread wide like wings. It obeyed me, she declared. Eli stood, beaming. You did it. I faced it alone. It did not bite me. It did not scream. I flushed and I survived. She spun in place, cloakless but radiant. I have flushed. I have won. Eli approached, offering his hand for a high five. She slapped it with a small but solid thwack. I hereby declare this toilet tamed. And your throne is ready, he said, mock bowing. Nishi snorted. I'll still hold it accountable. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny etched charm she had carved herself, an obsidian disc with a swirl symbol on one side and a Terran glyph for respect on the other. I made this for it, she said solemnly. To hang by the tank as a ward. Eli blinked. A toilet charm? She nodded. He grinned. Perfect. He hung it carefully. The disc twirled gently, catching the light. And somewhere, deep in the Wayfarer's plumbing, a pipe groaned in reluctant approval. The stellar Wayfarer glided through the fringe of the Novan Drift Nebula, stars dancing like fireflies across its reinforced observation panels. Inside, beneath that cosmic light, laughter bounced from wall to wall, genuine, effortless, healing. Nishi sat cross-legged on the mess hall table, regaling the ship's AI with her dramatic reenactment of the Flush Beast Wars, complete with exaggerated toilet sounds and heroic poses. Eli watched from the galley, stirring a synthetic stew and smiling. He hadn't seen her this relaxed since the day they first met on that trade moon station. Shy, stiff, unsure if he was enemy or savior. Now she mimicked a flushing roar so convincingly the ship's waste sensors pinged in confusion. "You should have seen it," she crowed. "It shrieked like a dying crater bat and tried to drink me through its white funnel mouth." Eli nearly dropped the ladle. "That is not what happened." "It is from my perspective," she said with a sly grin. He sat beside her, chuckling. "You're going to tell this story to every alien ambassador, aren't you?" "Oh, absolutely. Beware the Terran toilet. It'll be required survival training." They both laughed, deep, unrestrained laughter that felt like the kind stars would listen to. The kind that made the cold parts of space feel a little less lonely. "I never thought," Nishi said, wiping her eyes, "that fear could be this funny." "Fear's only funny when you've already beat it," Eli replied. A long pause, then she asked, more softly, "You'll tell others about me?" "Of course," he said. "You're part of the log now. And I think Earth could use stories about brave little aliens who tame Terran dragons." Her cheeks flushed a soft violet. "Make sure they know I tamed it with honor." He nodded solemnly. "Honor. And one heck of a toilet charm." They looked toward the lavatory together, door now closed, peace restored, mystery unraveled, and they laughed again, not at fear, but at the absurd miracle of surviving it together. The stars shifted around the stellar Wayfarer, spiraling past the viewport like scattered glass in the void. The ship was between systems now, an in-between place, quiet, reflective. Perfect for final thoughts. Eli stood on the upper deck, adjusting the ship's trajectory with the grace of an old pilot who trusted his vessel more than his own instincts. Beside him, Nishi dangled her legs from the railing, scribbling into her travel journal with a carbon stylus. "What are you writing?" he asked. She didn't look up. "A field guide. How not to die in a human lavatory." He chuckled. "Catchy title. I'm including diagrams, warnings, emotional prep exercises. Is there a chapter on plumbing humor?" "There's a whole appendix." They smiled at each other. Below deck, the AI played a soft tune from Earth, a Terran lullaby that once soothed children to sleep. It filled the ship like gentle gravity, grounding them both. "You know," Eli said, "it's funny. We prepare for so many big things out here. Space pirates, solar storms, diplomatic failures. But sometimes, the hardest thing to face is something small, familiar, unimpressive." Nishi nodded. "Like a loud bull." "Exactly." She folded her journal closed and looked out the viewport. "My people used to think Terrans were reckless. Loud. Always pushing forward. We are," he admitted, "but we also thought you were cruel." He turned, surprised, "And now? I think you're just not afraid to be messy. Even when it's scary." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "Maybe that's our real tech. Not the plumbing. Not the engines. Just the way we try. Even when we're afraid." She reached into her pocket and held up a second charm, this one made of bone glass and copper thread, etched with both of their species' runes. "For when I go home," she said. "To remind them that even dragons can be tamed. Especially the white, screaming kind." He accepted it with quiet reverence. Above them, the nebula flared violet, and below them, in the belly of the ship, the toilet rested, silent, humbled, honored.